Hey guys, it's Kish,
And it's Roland here.
and we are here with our very first set review of Sun and Moon Guardians Rising. So, Roland and I thought it'd be a good idea just to quickly flick through the list, point out what we think is important, and go from there. And we're pretty excited to do this. It's the first one of its kind for our channel, so hope you guys enjoy. And yeah, we'll just get right into it. Roland, have you got anything to say before we get started?
Yeah, so I think one of the things also, like, we just want to distill and say, okay, what's good, but also what's not good. And I think, sometimes you see people just hyping up cards that you really don't end up doing anything, just to like kind of say, oh, this looks cool. But I think we're going to take a critical eye and say, okay, this is what we think is really good, and we're going to try and distinguish that from what sort of is potentially playable. But I think we're just going to be pretty critical about it. Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll just run through the Pokebeach scans, sticking to our low budget theme. So we'll let's get started. So Bellsprout, Weeping Bell, Victory Bell. The less said about these cards, the better.
Yeah.
And
This is yeah.
yeah, not much more to say. Peddler Lilligant.
Next.
I got
Next.
All right, Phantom Trevenant. Probably the
first interesting card. Yeah, this at least
card.
is interesting. So one thing that actually I didn't notice when I first saw it is that, well, I didn't remember that Trevenant Break existed and that this could evolve into Trevenant Break.
Yeah.
So with Forest of Giant Plants, you can actually evolve straight from from a grass type into something that isn't grass. So you can actually on the first turn get into a Trevenant Break. So you could Trevenant Vileplume is something that you sort of could play. The problem with it's going to be that lower HP non-EX Pokemon or non-GX Pokemon aren't suited to Vileplume decks because you can't get them out consistently. So, of course, the problem is that if you were to play Trevenant Vileplume, you're not going to be able to get out more than like 3 Trevenants in one game.
Yeah.
So you need like a backup attacker, and then there's just too much stuff to fit in. You really may as well be playing Decidueye Vileplume. I've heard of some people hyping this deck up. I don't think that it's going to do anything. I mean, Silent Fear and Trevenant Break is good, so it does 30 damage to all Pokemon. So under Vileplume Lock, if you can Lysander something as Silent Fear, you can get a lot of mileage out of that. But it's just, it's too reliant on that. And Poltergeist is good in theory, but even if your opponent goes first and they just play all their play the item cards from their hand, then they're only going to have like 1 or 2 supporters maybe.
Yeah.
And Poltergeist is going to be doing nothing. So you can't even really rely on that. Even though you can attack with it, say on the first turn going second, it's not going to do much for you early on. And also late game, your opponent can end themselves. And it means that you have no real big damage. And when your Pokemon are going to get knocked out relatively easily, I mean, I know 160 HP on the break for a non-EX is still pretty good, but it's not even about giving up prizes. It's just about you can't keep getting out Trevenants under your own item lock. It's too disruptive. I don't think this card will really do that much.
Yeah, and I think that's the key, isn't it? It's not reliable damage. You can't account for how much damage you're going to do. You don't know what your opponent's going to draw off, and you don't know what's in their hand at any one time. So I think it's just not reliable enough until it finds a good partner, and I can't really think of anything off the top of my head that's going to be that card that's going to have good synergy with Trevenant and provide a tanky attacker to allow you to set them up.
Yeah.
So
so something that's sort of an interesting idea, but I don't think we'll see anything from it.
Yeah, we'll put this in the Rogue/Tier 3 category.
Tier 3. That's a good euphemism.
All right. Glossopod and Wimpod. Anything to say about this?
Well, Glossopod looks cool. It's got that nice little border on it. I'm not sure. Are those in the English cards? Do the English cards get those
These
borders?
are Japanese. No. Only the Japanese get
well,
these
in that
nice
case, I don't like this card at all. I mean, look, the attack itself is good, but the cost, having to attach 2 separate energies, so a grass and a double colors, that's not good. And with the Silver Bangle, I mean, you actually can knock out things in one hit, and it is pretty tanky, but it's just attaching 2 energy separately just isn't going to get the job done. Like, how would you play this card? Like, there isn't really... I'm not really seeing a partner for it.
No, it sort of has to be the focus of a deck, and if you run into
and
a
of course,
non-EX
you need it to be GX
non-GX
or
deck.
EX. You can't even knock out like a Vespiquen. You don't even do enough damage for that. So the 80 base damage, So it's a cool looking card, but it's not going to do anything. And Wimpod has a great attack, Scamper Away. Also, that's the Japanese translation from Japanese, but that's a fantastic attack. You could basically make a deck just using Scamper Away. The Wimpods will never get knocked out.
Yeah, so it's the old deck and cover without any of the benefits whatsoever.
That's a good assessment of it.
So Glossopod, I've heard people talking about it in Lurantis GX decks, but Again, it's a big commitment for not a lot of gain.
If
I think
Lorantis
you'd
could
rather
power
be...
it up with one attack, it would actually be alright. Because the awkward thing is, like, Lorantis can only get basic energy, so with Lorantis' first attack, you could put 2 grass on it, but then you'd still need to attach another energy to it.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's good.
You'd almost rather just attach that energy to another Lorantis.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's probably... Again, we'll put this in the tier 3 category. Okay, so Fliptini makes a comeback.
Oh boy, it's back. It's finally back. I think we've really missed it. Unfortunately, there are actually no Pokemon that make use of it in this format.
No.
So, because previously we've seen it be really effective way back, the VVV deck with that annoying Vanillux.
Yeah.
But we actually really don't have... I think the biggest card that could use this is actually Articuno. So it has Tri-Edge, which is a notoriously unreliable attack. So it does 20 base damage, and you flip 3 coins, it does 40 extra damage for each heads. So Articuno is that very sort of high risk, high reward card, where when you take a knockout with it, you take 2 prizes. So, but of course, it's not very reliable. So with Victini, then you've got a 75% chance of it hitting 400 base damage or more. So that's actually starting to become scary and somewhat reliable, and you've got like a very high chance of getting at least 1 hits or more. Whereas before you had a 75% chance, which is still a big risk. If you're going to finish off a knockout, say you're playing like a water box deck, you hit something with Lapras, and you're going to try and finish it off with Articuno. Sorry, it's not 75%. Sorry, what am I talking about? It's 87.5, but still, there is a chance you get 3 tails. Absolutely, it's still not like, but now with Victini, you're almost certain to hit at least 1 heads, and you've got a 75% chance of hitting 2 or more heads. So look, I think it's actually in that it's okay. But of course, say you're playing a Waterbox deck, are you going to want to take a Victini and an Articuno? And there's just too much bench space. I think right now, until a Pokemon's printed that really makes use of it, I actually don't think we'll see much of it.
Yeah, and my only qualm with this card is that it's not a direct reprint of the Noble Victories one, so I cannot use my full art from Noble Victories in this format.
It's Garbodor all over again, Well, it does get Tibor HP, so that's a very important buff.
Yeah, so let's put this in the futures box.
Absolutely. It's something that could be... there could just be a card printed tomorrow that uses a big flip effect, and this could suddenly be the best thing since sliced bread, but right now it's obviously not going to be too useful.
Alright, Chandelure. Chandelure, traditionally a very interesting Pokemon, gets interesting cards in the TCG, and I think this is one of them as well.
When I first saw this card, I misread it, and I thought it was as often as you like during a turn. And it was certainly more interesting when I interpreted it that way, until I reread it and went, this is somewhat disappointing, actually. Probably not going to be used very much.
I mean, it does have a burn effect for 1.
So you're essentially doing 70 damage for a fire energy, because with the new burn rules. Burn does do a guaranteed 20, but of course then it doesn't stick on. But that's obviously better than it was before. But Shady Move just isn't good enough, and it doesn't do enough damage. So this card will never see competitive play.
And you've so it's just not that great, unfortunately. One of the lesser poorer Chandelures in terms of abilities. It doesn't really get too much compared to the old Chandelures. So
I mean the old Chandelure was literally like actually better than this was, and we've had power creep. And all that sort of stuff. No, it's not very good.
Alright, we'll put that in the bin. Rubbish. So, Oricorio, another interesting
it's an interesting
Pokemon.
card. Look, I don't think, because I think the sort of fire decks that we have aren't the decks that are gonna make use of Oricorio, because obviously the main fire deck is Volcanion. Volcanion would always rather be attacking with the baby Volcanion rather than this. I will just point as an addendum, if only Incineroar was a deck that was, top tier, this would be a fantastic card in it. Unfortunately for Incineroar, Volcanion just happens to be water type, which doesn't really do anything for Volcanion aside from in the mirror, but it just happens to completely destroy Incineroar. And so I don't think Incineroar is going to be... I mean, it's questionable as to whether it would even be a good deck, even outside of weakness, but, hey, Incineroar has 250 HP, it can use Max Potion, that's never bad. So, unfortunately, it is weak to water, so, look, I don't know. If Incineroar ever becomes semi-decent, this will be a 4-of in that deck, and this will be very useful in it. Aside from that, I don't think there's a sort of fire deck that's going to make use of a starter Pokemon. I mean, starter Pokemon aren't really things we've seen for years and years and years. Not. I mean, look, I think it's a cool card, but
it's a cool card, but probably a little bit too slow, a little bit too weak for the current format. If we ever rotate to a sort of Sun and Moon on format, it could be pretty good in that with some future cards. So I think I'll pop this in the future box. With,
it definitely, because of course, we're talking about things the way we know them now, but obviously things can change.
So on to the old Salasizzle, which is getting some sort of hype.
Salazzle.
Yeah. Apologies for that terrible pronunciation.
You've just got to read it and you can see the correct pronunciation.
It's just what got so much sizzle. I chucked a sizzle in there.
Yeah, this is a weird looking Pokemon, but so we seem to always have one of these abilities in the format. Those play them from your hand and put 2 special conditions. We had a Moongus, that was the old one from Next Destinies. That confused and poisoned, I believe. This burns and poisons. Yeah, I think we're only going to see it paired with things that sort of benefit from special conditions. Funnily enough, actually, a card that does is actually Darkrai EX.
Yeah.
That actually does, but you generally rather be using Dark Pulse. It's the more efficient attack anyway, so... But hey, I mean, with its second attack, I suppose for a Dark and a DCE, if you've put a special condition on your opponent, it does hit for 160 base, plus the burn and poison, so you can actually hit for big damage faster than you could with a only Dark Energy Dark Pulse version. The problem is that it's so reliant on an ability that you're better off just playing Turbo Dark anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't think we'll see this unless we see something that pairs really well with special conditions.
Yeah, and the other thing going against it is it's not super searchable. It's got 110 HP.
Yep.
1 retreat cost, so you can't search it with Heavy Ball or Level Ball.
Yeah,
or
true.
Like
so you've
that.
got Ultra Ball for it. Yeah, it's
find.
not great. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll put this in the tier 3.
Yeah, it's more so in the futures part. Like a specific card has to come out for it to be, to be useful. Yeah.
All right, we'll skip over the Baby Turtonator because that is trash.
Hey, paralysis, man. You never know. Body slam. Paralysis. Paralysis is always good. Yeah, no, probably not going to
ever been a good body slam attack.
Yeah.
But
it always does the same thing, doesn't it? It's like 30 damage and 50% chance of paralysis. Yeah, it's always the same. But
maybe in pre-release. That's about it.
Yes, if you get this in pre-release, play the card. I'm telling you, you don't have to have fire energy. Just play the card.
Yeah.
I think we might have missed the boat on pre-releases, but hey, if you ever play a sealed format or something.
Yeah. So Turtonator GX, this is a pretty interesting card.
Yeah, it is interesting. I think it sort of fits the mold of a lot of these GXs. It's not quite obvious how to use them. I mean, I suppose, look, when you look at this card, you think, I can play a Volcanion. But aside from that, it's sort of a tricky card to evaluate. And I think we're going to see that in a lot of the GXs. They're not super straightforward, a lot of them.
Yeah.
So, because you've got that GX attack, right? And Volcanion isn't the deck that otherwise uses a GX attack. So, like, it sort of seems intuitive. Like, I may as well put one in. But... So attaching 5 fire energy from the discard pile, I mean, that's great if you can do it, but is that something that Volcanion's going to prefer over just attacking with a Baby Bolt? Because with Baby Bolt, you can actually get damage on the field. So if you get Hex Maniac, you can actually finish something off, just with the 130 from Volcanic Heat. So, it's sort of weighing up, like, how useful do you think those extra energy are?
Yeah.
Is getting 5 energy actually... Like, it sounds insane, right? But, like, is Volcanion's biggest problem not being able to power up more Volcanions? Or is its biggest problem getting hexed, and no matter how many Volcanions you have powered up, you can't do enough damage, or, you can't switch when you need to, or that sort of thing. I feel like that's a bigger problem for Volcanion than actually powering up enough Volcanions. But, look, I haven't played the deck as much as experts, who've played it for tournaments and tournaments have. Well, like yourself, actually.
Thanks, Roland.
Like you, of course, yes. I was actually thinking of yourself, so... Yeah, so what do you think? I mean... As a non-Volcanion player, I could be talking complete rubbish here, so...
No, I think your assessment is absolutely right. It's just difficult to see where this fits into Volcanion and where you would use it instead of Volcanion. Trap Shell, 20 damage, and an overpowered Rock Guard effect. Puts 8 damage counters on the attacking Pokemon if you get damaged. When are you going to have this in the active as opposed to a Baby Volcanion or a Volcanion EX to actually use Trap Shell? So
the only thing is maybe the second attack. Like but again, it's sort of awkward because 160 damage sort of isn't enough on its own.
Yeah,
the only
I think
thing
the
is
second attack is the most useful because it allows you to do more damage under things like Hex or Garbodor. So if you have a Fury Belt or a Choice Band, then you can start hitting some big numbers, whereas Volcanion's capped at 130, which is pretty low. It also allows you to require 1 less steam up to get some EX knockouts, etc. So it's it's got fringe benefits, as in, like, I don't think Nitro Tank or Trap Shell are the useful attacks. I think Crimson Flame is the one that you might want to use, but I don't know about the card.
And Volk decks can always I suppose they can always benefit from an extra attacker, because what can happen in some matchups is, because you've, except for lists that play like Salamence, or no one really plays Flareon EX anymore, but for lists that just play, say, 4 Volk EXs, they're sort of main attackers, quote unquote. The problem is that if they're always in the firing line and they're getting knocked out, and if you don't play
Yeah.
any recovery cards like Super Rod, what can actually happen is that you don't have enough Volcanion to steam up enough. So say you're playing against Mega Ray, right, where you need, say, 3 steam ups to get a 1-hit KO. You know, if say you prize one Volcanion EX and one gets knocked out, then that means you're not going to have enough to steam up for the knockout, or if 2 get knocked out, you're not going to be able to steam up for the knockout. What this does is it provides you with sort of an expendable attacker that isn't going to make you lose access to your steam ups later on. So I think Volcanion decks always benefit from having another attacker. But of course, the question is this better than Salamence? Is this better than all those other cards? Look, I think it probably is, just because it's so easily splashable, and it does have a generalizable utility. Even if Nitro Tank isn't quite as useful as it might seem, it's almost something that sort of like, why not splash it in? It's just it's another attacker that's always good. And as you said, with a Fighting Fury Belt or Choice Band. But the question is, will Volcanion decks actually play either of those still? It's going to be interesting to see how it interacts with the tools. But I think, and 190 HP, maybe the extra 10 HP helps a bit. I'm not sure whether that helps certain math, but
So I think it's a good one of.
Yeah, but you wouldn't see more than that.
Yeah, I'm a bit undecided on how effective it actually would be, and whether or not you just rather stay consistent. And because of course you can't search it out with Hooper EX and things like that. So
right, that's a good point. I actually didn't think of that. Yeah.
So we'll have to wait and see, but I'm a bit undecided. I think, but Crimson Flame is definitely the main reason you'd be using it, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the 3 retreat is actually a bit awkward as well. But,
But anyway, moving on. So Alolan Sandslash, very cool looking card, very cool Pokemon.
Yeah, really neat. We're getting these weird types. You know, what a time to be alive. If you'd said 20 years ago that Sandslash was going to be a water type, not sure what people would have said, but here we are. It's 2017, and we have this sort of stuff, and it's fantastic.
Yeah. Or even an ice type, which didn't exist.
Oh, ice type. Sorry, yeah. Well, water in the TCG. I don't play the video game. I'm a total noob when it comes to that. But and also we have one thing to note is that we actually have attack costless, energy-less attacks. Yeah, I should say. So that's cool that those are back, because those, of course, were a feature of the Diamond and Pearl series. So they're back, which is cool. Yeah.
So it's got a Alolan Sandslash, cool ability. Decent attack, but very expensive for 50 damage.
And I think it's interesting. This is competing with Umbreon, so if you want to play a hit and run deck, you'd probably rather use Strafe with Umbreon. With Choice Band now, that I think becomes a viable deck. That's something we'll probably talk about later when we get to Choice Band. But so with Smash Turn, I mean, it's probably, even with Choice Band, you're only hitting for 80, and it's probably not quite enough. Snow Shovel is a really good ability, but it's probably not worth. Like, you've got to commit so many more resources to getting Sandslash out compared to, say, Umbreon, where you literally just need an Eevee and a Dark Energy because it automatically gets Umbreon. And you don't need a DCE as well, which you need to attack with Sandslash. So drawing more cards is only really going to just almost compensate you for the fact that it's just way harder to get out in the first place. I don't think we'll see this played.
Yeah, and I think it suffers from that same thing of having that awkward 110 HP, not livable, searchable, very hard to get out, or a large investment to get out of fairly weak Pokemon, you'd have to say. I don't think...
and I don't think we have anything broken to switch into. I think, you can switch into, Wobbuffet, or, we don't have anything like, say, Robo Substitute that we used to have. I don't think we have any particularly broken cards to send up. And we don't have safeguarders that apply for both GXs and EXs. I think hit and run isn't a great strategy. If you want to play it, you should play with Umbreon instead. That's my...
Yeah, and I'll agree with you there. I think Alolan Sandslash, while it's a cool card, it will never see competitive play. So, on to some of the second GX of the set review. It's Alolan Ninetales GX, and Roland, I know you feel particularly strongly about this card. It's been getting a lot of hype, particularly because it's been doing well in Japan. So, do you wanna break this down for us?
Yeah, well, let me just start off by saying, you know what else was a big deck in Japan? Garchomp Altaria. That was a big deck in Japan. You know how many tournaments that won elsewhere? Bobkiss. None. No one ever won a tournament with it. I think this is going to be the same thing. So I think, look, it's not an overtly bad card. I mean, obviously, it's not, it doesn't strike you as just being, oh, well, this sucks. Like, when we get to certain cards later on, you can see, okay, this card actually sucks. This, I think, is, it's not offensive. It's not terrible. But it's also just not very good, and it's facing competition from Lapras. So, look, just to get straight to the point, Blizzard Edge, you're doing 160 damage, but guess what? Lapras does 160 damage as well, and you don't have to discard 2 energy off of it. So with Ninetales, you should be getting a premium because you're playing a stage 1 as opposed to a basic Pokemon. That also means you can't Max Elixir onto it, you can only Max Elixir onto the Vulpix. You're just playing all these more Pokemon, so your deck's becoming crammed with stuff. This has to be a lot better than Lapras in order to warrant playing it, and I don't even think that it's better than Lapras, let alone like better enough to the point where you would play it instead. Ice Path is a good GX attack, but you know what? So is Ice Beam from Lapras. Honestly, I think that's a better GX attack. Like, fine, if Ninetales isn't getting knocked out, well, then you're already in a good position anyway. Like, if Lapras isn't getting knocked out, you're healing it with Rough Seas, you're retreating it to the bench. This isn't that much better, really. Ice Blade's just not that good an attack. Like, I hear people hyping it up, but it's like, it's 50 damage. I mean, what year is this? This is like Power Creep era. Things have 200 million HP. Like, what are you getting out of that? Yeah. I think Blizzard Age, discarding 2 energy is just not good. It's just, I don't think this card will get played at all. It is important to note that Alolan Vulpix does have a good attack. That's nice, I suppose, but into Beacon, searching, costless search.
Always good.
Yeah, Beacon, yeah. But I'm going to put down the hammer and say this card is not going to win anything.
And you heard it here first, guys. Roland has passed judgment and sentenced Alolan Ninetales to the binder.
Just one last thing, though. I think it is weak to metal, so that's a lot better than weakness to grass. That is the one thing that it has over Lapras. I will admit that, but I don't think that's worth playing it still.
Yeah, I think, and the other thing to maybe point out is that 210 HP probably is a little bit better with Field Blower coming into the format.
True,
as opposed
I suppose.
to the 190 with Fury Belt, because the Fury Belt's probably going to decrease in play a little bit because it's not so reliable. But that's probably the only other thing to say. But I'm a bit undecided myself on this card. I think it's a decent card. It's got 3 decent attacks. Aqua Patch means that maybe you can stream Blizzard Edges a little bit easier, but as you said, Lapras can just do that by simply retreating into another Lapras. So I'm undecided myself. We'll just have to wait and see. And so we'll move on. So Tentacruel.
Now this is a good card. Now forget what I said. This is amazing, right? Yeah, no, probably not.
No,
it's always cool to see paralysis attacks. Now that we have Victini, flip paralysis attacks are a bit better, but just one flip for paralysis is still not good. You need like a double flip for paralysis, like the old Vanillix, for it to be good. So not good.
Mate, this pulled one over on me in pre-release. I'll tell you what, I got wrecked by Tentacruel.
Actually, it is a very good. Yeah, anything with colorless and special conditions is it's a fantastic pre-release card. Absolutely, get it if you play it if you get it in pre-release.
All right, so moving on, Politoed, not good.
It's a fun attack, right? Roll call. That's getting all these Pokemon in play. That's fun. Unfortunately, Poliwrath is not good. I actually had to look it up, and I was not impressed with what I saw.
No,
it was in Evolutions. For those who don't know, it's not good. Don't even bother searching it up. It's not even good.
Yeah. So Politoed relegated to always trying to find Poliwags, Poliwhirls, and Poliwraths, or helping them out.
It's the support Pokemon, but what it's supporting isn't very good. So
So we'll write that one off. Delibird. Christmas time has not come early. Christmas time has not come early for Delibird. It's a trash card.
Oh boy, Sharpedo. That's wow. Okay.
Moving on. Wailord gets another print and another 200 hit points.
Yeah, 200 hit points, but that's actually not new. We had a 200 hit point Wailord back in
Sandstorm, I think.
Oh well, that was the EX. I'm thinking of
Heart Gold, Undaunted. I think there was a 200 hit point Wailord.
No, I think that was 180. I think. Oh no, maybe it was 2. Actually, maybe it was 200. Man, I should know this. Well, anyway. I shouldn't really, but. Anyway, it's not very good. No, it's not very good.
No. Yeah. All right. Next.
I like the art.
Snorunt,
oh boy, Whaley. Yeah. Next.
Okay, Vanillux. So, what do you think about Vanillux? We've seen some annoying ice cream cones in the past.
We have.
This one was
if this was a
very
basic
good.
Pokemon, I think. I mean, Frozen Breath is. This card isn't good. I mean, the problem is, okay, you're not getting guaranteed paralysis, right? But discarding 2 energy every single time from a stage 2, even with Aqua Patch, there's no way that you can consistently power that up. Yeah. And okay, what's your best case scenario? Your best case scenario is that you paralyze your opponent until you knock them out. That's just that's a poor man's one-hit KO, and you've invested all these resources into doing that. It's just even on a theoretical level, it just doesn't work.
Hey, well, once again, I'll say it. This won me so many games in pre-release.
You managed to get it out. You actually managed to get it out in pre-release?
It was in the pre-constructed deck, which I only played the pre-constructed deck. I didn't pull anything from my packs, so I literally just played the pre-constructed deck. with
But
a
still,
1/1
getting out of stage 2, that's pretty hard in pre-release.
Nah,
I'm not saying you're stacking Kishara, but
Alolan Vulpix's bacon put in so much work.
Oh, of course,
crazy.
the synergy.
Yeah.
The synergy, yeah. Man.
So, but aside from that, I think Vanillux will have to wait for another print to get it stay in the sun again. But then it would melt, so maybe it doesn't want to be in the sun. Yeah. So, Wishy-Washy, another interesting
let's not
Wishy-Washy
skip
card.
over Alomomola. Yeah, actually, no, in fact, let's skip over it. Yeah, no, forget that. Wishy-Washy.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this isn't good either. Sorry, the 30 HP one. Why would you want to switch it into the GX? Why wouldn't you just play the GX? Like, this is what I don't understand. Why did they bother printing this card?
Yeah, I literally have no idea why this card exists.
Well, so you can sharpshooting in the meantime for when you need to hit the bench for 10.
Yeah.
It's just... anyway. Wishy-Washy GX, though, this is a weird card. For one thing, I'm looking at the art. I don't know what the heck's going on with this card. I don't even know what this Pokemon is meant to look like. What is the Pokemon? It's like
Roland,
looks like a
clearly.
Credilli. Looks like a Hydreigon, from here.
Mate, it's in its schooling form. That's when a whole bunch of Wishy-Washy get together to make one big Wishy-Washy.
Wait, that's a bunch of... Wait, actually?
Yeah, it's a bunch of little Wishy-Washy put together.
Oh, wow. I
see.
legitimately never knew. I just thought that was what...
There's a Wishy-Washy there. There's some tails here. It's in its schooling form. Don't you play the games? What a nub.
Wait, but how do they get the shapes of, like, the mouth and stuff?
Huh?
There's no way that you can make, like, an entire
that's
fish
a
out of
Wishy-Washy head. There's another Wishy-Washy head. Use your imagination, Roland. Come on.
Yeah, I'm not
This is
feeling
Pokemon.
that. But...
Anything's possible.
Well,
there's some Wishy-Washy
yeah,
here.
I definitely learned something here, but I think, look, in terms of this card, it's just bizarre. I think that's the best way of describing it. It's got 2 5-energy attacks. Admittedly, with the double colors, you can power it up for 4. I mean, look, with Aqua Patch and Max Elixir, you could actually power this card up pretty quickly, but the problem is that the only attack that's worth using is its GX attack. And it is a great attack, right? 220 damage is fantastic. You get to conserve all your energy. You could then even Max Potion this card afterwards, so that it doesn't give up an easy prize, because it for some reason has 210 HP. Just keeps making it even weirder, and that's without Fury Bolt or whatever. That's a base of 210. But once you've used the attack, once you've used Blue Surge, I mean, the card doesn't do anything. So it's probably not worth playing in water decks. Like, you would rather just, power up more Lapras rather than powering up one Wishy-Washy just to attack with it once, because, you can't use Blue Surge and Ice Beam with Lapras. So, and because Micro Burst Vortex isn't, well, for starters, you have to move all the energy up with Blue Surge, so you can't then continue using Micro Burst Vortex. But Micro Burst Vortex, say that a million times very quickly, is just not good enough. It's not good enough to base it. It's just such a weird card.
It's definitely...
It is weak to lightning. It's weak to lightning, though. So, but the problem is that the main thing that you're worried about, it's grass, is Decidueye, and this doesn't even knock out Decidueye in one hit, so it doesn't even help you in your Decidueye matchup. So,
hey, with a
that's
Kukui.
With a Kukui, if you can draw that on a trainer lock, yeah. Good luck.
So it's definitely the GX you do not want to pull if you buy boxes and stuff. And that's about all we can say about Wishy-Washy GX. It's a terrible card and would only feature on Karl Pukasukovich's Bad Deck Monday.
Rest in peace. Why'd you have to mention that? I'm sad now.
The emotions.
Come back, Karl, please.
Yeah. Alright, so Alolan Golem, another Bad Deck Monday card, possibly.
Yeah, no, say that 100 times. Just say Alolan Golem 100 times consecutively. Yeah, this is, I don't even think this gets a spot on that. I think this is just an abomination of a card, to be honest. I mean,
Wait,
look,
you don't
it
like
looks
Rock
cool,
Rocket?
but look, no, I think in terms of, stupid fun cards, it's not even, that fun. You know what I mean? Heavy Bomber, I don't know.
We're not using it for Heavy Bomber, we're using it for the flips with Fliptini. Electro
Rocket.
Rocket.
How are you going to get the lightning energy on? How are you going to get the lightning energy on?
Magnezone.
Oh, you've sold me now. Actually, no, sorry, I've seen the light. No, sorry, this is a tier 1 deck. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have an obligation to the people to tell you when something's good. Actually, no, sorry, that is a tier 1 deck, yeah.
Yeah.
Golem Magnezone.
Alright, so let's skip over that quick smart and go straight to Vikavolt GX, sorry.
Yeah. Another weird GX card. Yeah, what do you think about this first? I've been rabbiting on. How about, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I think it's an average card. I think we were talking about it before with a wide lens on it. You can potentially win the game with one attack against a Mega Ray deck.
Against a Mega Ray deck, you can do that.
Yeah.
So aside from that,
Or Shaman's on the bench, yeah.
Yeah, so, because of course, the Wide Lens is a tool that allows you to apply weakness and resistance when you're hitting the bench. Because, of course, pretty much all attacks that hit the bench don't apply weakness or resistance otherwise, and Gigatron's no exception. But with Wide Lens, you can knock out as many Shamans as your opponent has on the bench. The problem is, if your opponent knows you're playing Vikavolt, they're just not going to bench more than one Shaman, unless they absolutely have to. So, generally, Gigatron's not going to get you more than one... it's not going to get you more than 2 prizes. And Super Zap Cannon, like, if you're hitting for 180 every turn, you're probably going to be getting 1-hit knockouts with that anyway. So, Gigatron actually, like, isn't that amazing. I mean, and the other 60 damage spread, even though like that might sound amazing, it's like you're not actually going to make use of that damage particularly well. But I think,
you might if you're hitting GXs, which have
true.
more
No,
than
that's a good point. So say you're hitting
so.
Decidueye, I suppose hitting for 60 means you can follow up with 180. But I think 240 HP is like obviously really good, and not a lot of stuff knocks that out, and it's weak to fighting as well. So it's actually a big tank, and honestly.
Yeah.
You play it with the other Vikavolt, so you'd use...
That's right.
Strong Charge, I believe the ability is, so you're getting 2 energy per turn.
Yeah.
Sort of vulnerable to Hex still, but... I think ultimately it's just going to be a bit too clunky. It's going to be that sort of like, you have to set up multiple stage 2s, and the reward for doing it is good, but it's not like good enough. Like if you... It should be like ridiculously broken if you have to get out 2 stage 2s and use abilities when Hex Maniac's everywhere and Garbled is going to be everywhere and all this sort of stuff. Like it has to be really good. It's only just good. And that's probably not going to be. It's not going to be good enough.
And I think the other thing to point out with sharing an evolution line with the other Vikavolt is that what are you going to have? You're going to have 2 of the Vikavolt from Sun and Moon and 2 GXs.
You probably play 3 GXs maybe. I don't know.
So you're basically going to be on struggle street to get your whole setup because you're also sharing an evolution line.
Yeah,
so,
exactly. If you have one of the what's it called? What's the basic of this line called again?
Charger Bug.
No, that's the stage 1.
Oh.
Anyway, I can't remember what it was, but because the problem is, like, let's just say you have 1 prize. Well, that means you only have 3. So, like, if you have to get 1 out at least to get out the ability 1, that means you only have, it's just, it's sort of a blessing and a curse to share the same line. Yeah, it's like, it's helpful in the sense that the same basic gets you multiple Pokemon, but it's a curse in the sense that, like, if you run out of the basics or, some are prized, you're going to really struggle to actually get enough attackers out. So, I don't think it's going to be particularly good, but it's not the worst GX in existence. Let's just say that. Primarina.
I mean, I guess if you ever do power 1 up and your opponent has been smart and benched like 3 Shamans, you could.
Well, you do win the game. I mean, there's probably nothing more satisfying than doing that in a tournament game. Than that. Unfortunately, actually, I mean, look, and that is actually because I mean, I know we joke about it and saying, okay, how stupid would you have to be to do that? But I mean, Mega Ray decks almost can't not do that. As we're going to get to later, I think that Mega Ray is going to be a deck that's going to really fall off. There's a card we'll get to later. That I think, so funnily enough, I think the one deck that Gigatron really pulls a number on is going to get a lot less popular. So, that's sort of a bit of bad luck there.
So, Vikavolt, sorry, mate. Yeah, we'll give you a tier.
That's our first
4
Oricorio,
stats.
by the way.
Yeah.
So
the second
keep
Oricorio.
count, there's, not very good, but it's, are those pom-poms that it's waving?
Yeah, mate. Pom-pom can do 100 for 1.
Oh, sorry, of course, pom-pom is the attack, so that would make... So, pom-pom punch.
Pom-pom punch.
Probably... I can't see this ever being useful.
No, let's move on to Tapu Koko GX. So a very cool GX, a very cool ability. I don't personally think this is going to make a huge impact on the format just right now. Maybe later down the track, we know that Super Scoop Up is being printed in Sun and Moon 3, and maybe that's when Tapu Koko can really come out and shine. At the moment, I just think it's a little bit lackluster. Sky High Claws, 130 damage, isn't a whole lot. GX attack is great. 50 damage times the amount of energy attached to all your opponent's Pokemon. Wow, that's really powerful. But Sky High Claws not really doing a whole lot of damage. And to stream these is probably not going to be super easy.
Yeah, you're relying on not getting 1-hit KO. It's basically just like an all-in, okay, if you don't want 1-hit KO me and you don't Hex me, well then I can switch in and I can heal. Unfortunately, we don't have those Scoop Up cards, so you can Max Potion, right? But you can't pick it up, so you can't use the ability again.
You
so
can't recycle
it's sort of, it's going to be awkward because you're going to have these Tapu Koko GXs on the bench, which have no energy on them. And then, so
what do you do?
I think, I think it's going to struggle. I think what you could play is like Regirock promo with the EXP share, so you put an EXP share on it, can't get Fill Blown away. And so what happens is, even if they do get a 1-hit KO on you, well, you get energy on the Regirock, which is something that you can switch you can switch the energy to Tapu Goku. So like even if you get one hit KO'd, you can still at least respond. Obviously, if you're getting one hit KO'd every turn, you're still going to lose anyway because Skyhook Claw doesn't do enough damage. But yeah. So I think it's just a bit of a gambit. Like I think this would be good against decks that can't kill it in one hit. So what can't KO it in one hit, but against decks that can, you're just not going to be able to keep up.
Yeah, but I guess the one thing to say about it is that it's got no weakness, so it is
that's an
pretty hard to one-hit KO.
Yeah,
so,
I think
but
it's... I think with Choice Band now and the fact you can't rely on fighting Fury Belt, I think 170 HP is not that hard to do, unfortunately.
So, so I think once Super Scoop Up comes out, I think this will get a lot more powerful.
Yeah, it'll definitely, absolutely, 100% get a lot better. Yeah, absolutely.
And then so will my Mega Alakazam deck, so... keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, okay, please do.
Yeah, so, alright, we'll skip past Slowpoke and Slowbro.
They're never good. Why? Slowbros are
doing
never
their usual thing. I mean, look at this guy. What's he doing? That's what
Slowpokes always do. They're just chilling.
Mate, he's lying on his back when there's Pokemon battles to be won.
Yeah.
And Slowbro, meanwhile.
How does his tail not hurt? That's the one thing I don't understand. How is he not in physical pain?
I don't know. It's probably, no idea.
And Slowking, he's got that thing on his head. Is that just not biting into his head?
Huh? Yeah. It goes from its tail to his head.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, we don't have Slowking, so we just have Slowbro, so... here we get into something that's, absolutely literally format changing. Yeah.
Yeah, so...
and we're not being facetious here. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Trashalanche, I'm not sure. Is that the English attack name as well?
I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so. I just want to say Trashalanche a few times.
So, Garbodor, again, making a huge impact on the format. We've seen Garbodor do magical things with its ability lock, really narrowing down what decks you can play, and now maybe it might be doing the same thing with these with this Trashalanche attack, which is absolutely insanely powerful. 20 damage times each energy card in your opponent's discard pile. So if you think about it, most decks...
Did you say energy card?
Sorry, item cards, not energy. Energy would be terrible.
I know that would be pretty bad, yeah.
20 times the amount of item cards, apologies. But think about it, like, most decks play 30, 33 item cards, and you can't really, like, not use them. You have to use them.
They wouldn't play, because item cards don't include supporters, so you wouldn't...
True, maybe like 25.
Yeah,
then.
But still, there's a lot. I mean, you've got 4 Ultra Ball for Versus Seekers, Trainers Mails, you've got switching cards, you've got recovery cards, you've got, choice bands, you've got fighting Fury Belts, you've got Field Blowers now. There's just so many item cards. Because, of course, it does count tools as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is just amazing. Of course, the thing is you can't really build a deck on it just on its own. You've got to play something that can get you some mileage out of the early turns. Because if you literally just played, like, 4/4 Garbodor, well, then your opponent could, like, play around it to an extent. So you've got to play a card that sort of forces your opponent to, like, quote-unquote, play the game. You've got to... That keeps your opponent honest. Mm-hmm. So I think one of the cards we're seeing kind of talked about that's going to do that is Tauros. So you could just play, like, you're going to use Tauros in the early game, just force your opponent to deal with it, and it's going to force them to play item cards, and then you can just sweep with Garbodor later on. Yeah, so something like that, even like Espeon, you could see instead. Yeah, just anything that attacks for colors or psychic energy, and that's good early in the game.
Yeah.
It's going to pair with it well. And of course, you can play the other Garbodor as well. So
yeah, that's right. You can play the ability locking Garbotox and Garbodor, and so I think this card is extremely powerful. And just having a Trubbish on your bench, just threatening this card, is just going to be so massive. So, as you said, Tauros, Espeon, those are probably the major cards that can really abuse this. And if you're feeling like getting really frisky, you can play this with the Trevenant that we discussed earlier. So your opponent can't play cards from their hand, or they get hit by Garbodor if they do play cards. They can't play cards and they get hit by Trevenant. They do play cards, they get hit by Garbodor. So
look, you never know.
You never know. Know.
Sometimes you do know, and I think this is one of those cases.
So a lot of people are talking about this being a format-breaking card, and I think it is to an extent, but be interesting to see what people use it in.
Yeah, that's going to be the big question here.
Yeah. So, I mean, card is absolutely ruining in Japan, but they have a different format, bear that in mind. They play X and Y on, and their actual tournament structure is completely different, whereby winning games quickly is much more beneficial to your chances of making it into the top cut. So, It's a completely different format to ours, so something like Decidueye Vileplume wouldn't be successful over there. So it's more decks like this, the quick, speedy decks. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of splash this card makes in the format. And it's a great card, no doubt about it. It's just, I don't like it myself. I don't know why they printed this type of card, which dissuades you from playing cards which you need to get your setup. I don't really, I don't.
It could
like
be kind of
personally,
slowing down the format. You could almost view it in the opposite way. You could say, well, actually, what it's best against is the faster decks, which is sort of the decks that try and overrun you and prevent you from getting your setup. So this could force decks to sort of change their lists a bit and make them sort of, okay, instead of Trainer's Mail, I'm going to play more supporters, or I'm going to play something else. So I think we could see this actually just change as a result of this card.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Will be interesting to see how people change the way they build decks, keeping this card in mind. And we've certainly seen that in the past with item locking decks.
Yeah, well, we're seeing that right now. Absolutely, we're seeing
yeah.
people change their list to try and beat item lock, and I think we could see the same thing here because things like Trainer's Mail, they're not 100% essential. They might be the best card for you to play right now, but you only need a slight incentive to not play Trainer's Mail, and there are other cards that sort of do the job for you.
Yeah. So so we'll move on. Enough said about Garbodor. Nothing much to say about Gothitelle.
We haven't had a good Gothitelle since the Magic Room one, unfortunately.
Yep.
Well, actually, this Oricorio is definitely worth talking. So the first one is, I'm not going to try and pronounce the specific type of what it is, but this is an interesting card. So I think we'll see this in even Mega Guardi builds. This would be a really helpful card in those because just having a Pokemon, because obviously you need a Pokemon to put down your bench anyway. Yeah. And the ability to just get 2 Fairy Energy, I imagine would be very helpful for those sort of decks. And Mega Ray, if Mega Ray doesn't die out, this would also benefit from this. So but obviously it's just going to be a bit of a role player in those decks. It's not going to have too much use outside of that, probably.
Yeah. As you said, just a tech card. Aside from those 2 decks, I can't really think of anything that could abuse.
Yeah, it's not really worth playing just for that. It's not like it's a Turbo Dark deck, tech one in just to search for dark energy. It's probably just for the decks that need Pokemon on the bench anyway. So, why not play something that gives you at least some extra utility?
All right, and the second Oricorio, would have been good to see this last season when Night March was ruining people's lives.
Yeah, it was like Karen. They printed Karen just one set too late. Yeah, here they printed it 6 to 8 months too late. Look, well, okay, it is a counter to Vespiquen, but funnily enough, we've seen Vespiquen drop off with the popularity of Decidueye Vileplume, because Vespiquen's a deck that really gets hurt by Vileplume, and also, Decidueye Vileplume just destroys it. So, look, if Vespiquen ever comes roaring back, and your deck has a bad Vespiquen matchup, look, this actually, could single-handedly win you the matchup. Quite seriously, it could. Yeah.
So, but that's about it. Don't have much more to say on that. And Toxapex GX, another interesting GX.
I think interesting is more euphemistic there. I think this is the worst GX in the set, for sure. I think this is...
worse than Wishy-Washy.
Oh, mate, Wishy-Washy, you go out with a bang, you do 220 damage, and then... this is just... because with Wishy-Washy, right, you've got Aqua Patch and Max Elixir powered up, right, and then you get all your energy elsewhere. With this, how are you going to power it up? Toxic Shelter GX is a good attack, but how do you power up 3 Psychic Energy on something? And Ultra Toxic Poison isn't even that good because every deck can just switch out. And its first attack, for 1 energy, it's okay, but you're not building a deck around that. It sort of seems like this is meant to be paired with Vileplume, because under Vileplume, your opponent can't get out of Poison as easily, and they can't get around Toxic Shelter as easily. But the problem is, if you're under Vileplume, how are you going to power up something that takes three coloured energy? How are you going to do that?
Yeah,
is my question.
No, I can't see a way. Maybe Lunala GX if you're feeling really bad.
But that doesn't even. But that's the funny thing. That doesn't even accelerate energy. That just moves.
Yeah, it doesn't accelerate. But
actually, there is a Pokemon later on that does accelerate Psychic Energy. But there are much better ways to play that card than this. But I don't think. So I shouldn't be obtuse. I'm talking about Metagross GX. But there's no way you would play that with this. This is a terrible card.
Okay, so Toxapex GX has been written off. Maybe it can see some expanded love, I don't know, with Dragalge, the old Dragalge that stops you from retreating Furbank. Who knows? It's bad.
No.
Alright, just a nah. No way. Alright.
No way, Jose.
Anything you want to talk about before we hit the biggest card in the set? I don't want to say anything about Mimikyu or Delmice.
Gee, big call calling that card the best card in the set. But first, we'll get to Mimikyu. If only it could mimic GX attacks, that would just be hilarious, I reckon. But unfortunately it can't, so no. Filch is an interesting attack name. No, Delmice actually, sorry, just quickly, that allows Solgaleo to get a 1-hit knockout on Decidueye, so that could be relevant. Yeah. If we see Solgaleo, if Solgaleo Metagross turns out to be an okay deck, I think that it has too many problems, but we'll get to that later. Because, of course, Solgaleo hits for 230, which is enough to knock out 99% of things in the format. It just happens to be 10 short of Decidueye. Delmice could actually be relevant if Solgaleo becomes a deck.
Yeah. And
but yes, on to what you have described as the best card in the format. Please enlighten the best card in the format. Viewers.
I think the best.
Sorry, in the set. Sorry.
So basically, Wonder Tag, the old Jirachi EX effect. Play it from your hand to the bench. You can search your deck for any supporter, and Energy Drive, the old Mewtwo EX, 20 times the amount of energy on both active Pokemon. It's just so versatile. You can think about how many times you've needed to find a Hex or you need to find a Lysander. This allows you to just search it out very easily. So tech supporters might be making a bit of a comeback. Flare Grunt, things like that.
Yeah, even like Delinquent. I think that's a card that could actually benefit all from this.
Absolutely.
Especially with the surprise factor. Cause,
yeah.
Yeah.
And Energy Drive, any deck that uses Double Colorless, just even decks that don't use Double Colorless, it's just a good attack. It allows you to do damage. It's not that easy to KO Tapu Lele because it's got no weakness, 1 retreat. So I think it's just versatile. It's just a good card. It's kind of like how you sometimes want a Sky Return to get 30 damage on. This is just, you're mainly using it for Wonder Tag, but you do have the ability to Energy Drive. And Tapu Cure GX, not sure how useful that is.
In decks that happen to be playing Psychic Energy already, it could actually possibly be useful, but not a great GX attack.
So, but I just think the versatility of the card makes it so good. The other card that would be rivaling it for best card in the set, I think, would be Field Blower, but Tapu Lele for me is the best card in the set. What's your take on it?
Yeah, big call. I think it is a great card, absolutely, and being able to search out the niche supporter cards. I think on average, just using setup with Shaman is actually better than Wonder Tag, but you may as well diversify. So instead of playing 2 Shaman, I think you may as well play like 1 Shaman and 1 Tapu Lele. So in the quote unquote average deck, although you might argue that there is no average deck, but just for argument's sake, I think so. This isn't going to replace Shaman because setup just gives you so much power.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So. But of course, what this has over it is that, you can search out specific things, whereas with Shaman, you're just kind of blindly hoping that you draw into what you want. Yeah. So, this is absolutely a good card. It's not as much of a liability on the bench as Shaman is, because it does have 170 HP. So, and it does have a good attack. I mean, I think the attack, like, it's for a supporting card, it's good, but, I mean, I think it's getting a bit too much hype over its attack. Like, it's a good attack, but it's not.
Yeah, I mean, things have moved on from
you don't really want to be attacking with it.
No.
But I think searching out specific supporter cards, I think Hex, Lysander, Delinquent, those are worth searching out. A Flagrant, those are worth searching out. So it's absolutely a good card. But I think in terms of because it's applicability, right? So it's not format breaking, but
no, it's not format breaking.
It has a wide applicability. So it's a very generalizable card. So it's obviously very good.
Yeah. So I think just the versatility of the card is what makes it such a good card, and probably just a one-of in most decks. So we will move on.
And particularly good as well in, say, Mega Guardi. Again, a sort of a role player card that you put down. Fantastic in that.
All right. So,
Lunala.
Anything to say about this?
Yeah. Look, actually, the first attack, you could sort of take it in a Lunala deck. If you're playing a Lunala deck, I might question as to why you would do that. But if you, let's assume you are playing a Lunala. I mean, I joke about that because Kish and I, we've tested with Lunala quite a bit. It's a fun deck. Unfortunately, Hex Maniac kind of does a number on it. So you could play this as a one-of, just as a surprise attack. You could do a bunch of damage. But the problem is only 160 HP. Once it gets knocked out, you lose all the energy. So my verdict is this isn't good.
Yes, we will move on to Machoke, which is getting some attention purely because of Decidueye's impact on the format right now. It's sort of, most decks have to think about how am I going to go against Decidueye, what am I going to do, because you are going to run into Decidueye in tournaments. So Machoke is the first of its kind in that it blocks not just damage, but abilities placing damage as well. So, so Decidueye is obviously the first thing that comes to mind when you think about Pokemon that can place damage counters from abilities. And I'm not sold on the card. What about you, Roland?
Yeah, so the problem is that as a general card to counter Decidueye, you would never play this card. You would always just play Wobbuffet or something instead. Yeah. The thing is, the one reason this should be talked about is it actually provides Gyarados with a theoretical way of actually beating Decidueye. It's still not enough because Vileplume is really what the problem is.
Yeah.
Because, of course, the problem with Gyarados against Decidueye, I mean, that's literally one of the worst matchups in Pokemon TCG history. That's not, me just saying that. That is honestly one of the most lopsided matchups in the history of the game. Just play that matchup 100 times. The Gyarados deck would win 3, maybe. Like, it's just horrendous. Like, you would literally only win if the Decidueye played Dead Draws, because with Decidueye, they get a knockout every turn on a Magikarp with an ability. That's without them even attacking. And they have Vileplume. It's just... Whereas with this, right, if you have Machoke in play, your Magikarps can't get hit, right? So if you can get around the ability lock problem, so if you can get around the item lock problem, say if you play a Gyarados list with Wobbuffet, then you can play your recovery cards, and now that we have Choice Band, you can actually one-hit KO Decidueyes, because with the 210 base plus the 30, and with Machoke, you can prevent your Magikarps from getting targeted. Unfortunately, that's just so much to take into a deck, which doesn't have that much room.
Yeah.
And even then, you probably still wouldn't beat Decidueye. So, look, I think Machoke, in terms of its general applicability against Decidueye, is just not that good. Like, if you're worried about bench damage, just play Mr. Mime, although there aren't any decks that hit the bench anyway. So, look, it's just, you would only play it in Gyarados, specifically to beat Decidueye, but even then, it probably doesn't help you win what is one of the worst matchups in Pokemon history. So, next.
And, I guess if it gets Lysandred into the active... Heavy retreat cost.
Oh, yeah, and it's got 3 retreat.
Stop.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I didn't even consider that. That makes it
hit.
Even worse, yeah. If you're playing a Gyarados deck and this gets Lysandred, that's not good at all. Yeah, this is useless. This card will never see play.
Yeah, and Machamp, once again, not good. So, Sudowoodo, something you think is a format breaking to some extent.
Yeah, absolutely. It's pretty innocent looking card. You think, that's not a great ability. Like, we've had this ability before, like a Ditto, and it didn't do anything. But just think about this, right? What does Mega Ray do to beat this? I think like this is far more impactful than Parallel City ever was. Even Parallel City with Garbodor as a combination. Because of course, if you're playing Mega Ray, you could sort of get around it to an extent. But with this, you can't. Doesn't matter what stadium you have in play. You're limited to 4 bench Pokemon. Doesn't matter if you have Skyfield. As long as this card's in play, you can't do anything about it. Yeah. And that means Mega Ray's capped at 120 damage. Yeah. And that means that basically any deck, like, say, Volcanion, right, which has what most people consider to be a negative matchup against Mega Ray, all Volcanion would need to do is literally just take in one Sudowoodo. And their matchup goes from being, 35-65 to, 80-20. I mean, it's literally, that drastic. Because suddenly Mega Ray can't get 1-hit KOs on you. And... they're forced to Lysandre this out just to knock it out. And if you get it back into play, well then, they're back to square one. And even just forcing them to Lysandre out of non-EX, it's just... This is huge, honestly. I think it honestly it turns Mega Ray from being, one of the top 4 decks, maybe, to just becoming a fringe card. Because, any deck can take this in. Turbo Dark, if you're worried about Mega Ray, take one of these in. Volcanion, if you're worried about Mega Ray, take one of these in. Any deck you just play. And so I think it's going to relegate Mega Ray to being a niche deck that only exists when your opponent doesn't play this card. I think it's that strong, honestly.
Yeah, and I think that's the key, isn't it? It's so splashable. It's a basic, so it's so easy to get it out. A lot of these cool abilities we're seeing on stage 1s, etc., but this is on a basic Pokemon, so it's so easy to get out, and just a hard counter to things like Mega Ray. So, great card, and we may see it's the old Giratina. That promo Giratina that blocks breaks.
Yeah.
It's sort of that sort of thing happening again, where people probably stop playing Mega Ray because they fear Sudowoodo, then Mega Ray goes out, people stop playing Sudowoodo, then Mega Ray comes back, and so...
I think we'll sort of balance it in equilibrium where Mega Ray will sort of come back, but Mega Ray can never be it's going to be relegated to being a niche deck. It's never going to be, it's the format breaking deck,
Yeah, I think probably its best days are behind it, Mega Ray, so... Yeah, so Sudowoodo, cool card. And of course, we said it before, but this totally does a number on Incineroar.
Oh no, I didn't even think about it. Oh no.
Incineroar just gets worse.
Oh, why did you have to? Oh no. I didn't even think about that.
So
it was never meant to be. It was they printed such a cool card, and it just everything was working against it from day one. So not happy there. Not happy.
Incineroar, not an Incineroar. Gliscor, good pre-release card. That's all.
Yeah, good pre-release card.
Wishcash, nope.
Nope.
Rockruff, nope. Lycanroc GX. This is a card I like. So, Bloodthirsty Eyes, the old Luxray GL level X ability. So, when you play this card from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon, you switch your opponent's bench Pokemon with their active. So, it is a free Lysander for an ability. So, you can use multiple of these per game. And Dangerous Rogue GX, 50 times the amount of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Most decks, I mean, even with a Sudowoodo in play, they're going to have 4 bench, right? So, that's going to be 200 damage. So, I think this is an amazing card. Even if you just play it purely for the ability, I think it's a great card. Being able to gust up one of your opponent's bench Pokemon has always been a strong effect from the original base set right throughout. How we saw it with Pokemon Catcher, and then when that got nerfed, Lysander's massives. How many games have come down to just being able to gust up one of your opponent's bench Pokemon? I think this is a great card. Strong energies mean that you can hit for bigger damage than 110, but I just think the ability is too strong. Maybe I'm not too sure what you pair it with.
Yeah, I think that's going to be sort of the question. Is it's a great card, but it can't really sustain a deck just on its own. It's a good partner for things. Just as a quick aside, my pet deck now is Metacam, a card that probably everyone's forgotten exists. The Primal Clash one where you get to attack twice. Now the choice band's in the format. Oh boy, that's going to be getting a run on PDCHO for sure. This is a great take in that deck. Just as like a 1/1 or 2/2 line. You can make use of the Jex attack, and you can use its ability, particularly in a deck that isn't going to be able to use Lysander as easily because you've got to play supporter cards because your Metacam's getting knocked out every turn. So that's probably just going to be a bit of a fun deck, but it sort of does highlight okay, so you want to play this in a deck that has like a sort of a consistent attacker. Yeah, I've seen some people thinking of playing this with the other Lycanroc, but I think that's not quite good enough to build a deck around. Like Crunch, I think the first text, the energy discarding one. I mean, it's a good attack, but it's just not. I don't think it's enough. I think this needs another good fighting Pokemon, and this is a fantastic card to pair with it. Because it's weird because fighting has so much support. We've got Strong Energy, we've got Regirock, we've got Carbink. You've just got the world at your feet, but these fighting Pokemon, they just can't make up decks on their own. Unless it turns out Metacam is really the true savior of the format, which I'll be testing to make sure if it is. But aside from that, I think fighting is a bit of an underwhelming type at the moment. That's why we're seeing Turbo Dark just loving the fact that fighting weakness is like saying no weakness at all, basically. It's going to need a partner, but with that partner, it's fantastic because, as you said, the ability is amazing, the GX attack is amazing, but it can't really be a deck on its own.
Yeah, and I think a couple of things else to say about this card. Grass weakness is terrible right now. You do not want to be weak to grass if you can help it.
That's true.
And 200 HP is right in the hitting zone for Decidueye. Just one ability drop and then a Razor Leaf will knock you out. So that's bad. But I think the main thing is that we may be entering a Lysander-less format after rotation.
Really? Is that right? So it hasn't got reprinted? Because it's actually very hard to keep track of when these supporters are getting reprinted.
I'm fairly sure it hasn't been reprinted. So since... Oh, God. Can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, I can't remember either. So, that's interesting. Okay, so in that case, this card becomes even better.
Yeah.
Even better than it already is.
So if we ever do end up with a Lysander-less format, Lycanroc GX becomes massive because that is a huge effect to be able to gust up when your opponent cannot. So we may have to put this in the futures box and wait and see. All right. So let's move on. So Mudsdale, the less said about this, the better. And I've never seen that Pokemon in my life, and I never want to see it again. I got this as my pre-release promo. Safe to say, I was fairly disappointed.
I just love that. I love the attack name on Minior, by the way. Cosmic Explosion. What an attack name. I probably won't get translated that in English, but someone... Wait, do you know what that attack name is in English?
No, I don't know what that attack name is in English.
I hope it's Cosmic Explosion.
Cosmic Explosion It's pretty sweet. Honchkrow, always a interesting card. Always a card that can hit for big damage in weird situations.
Yeah, that's a good way of describing it.
Yeah. So Raven's Claw, 10 damage, plus 10 more damage for each damage counter on all of your opponent's Pokemon. So a powerful effect if you're able to spread damage. Very powerful, especially on a non-EX. Relevance in the format? Not so sure that it's...
Yeah, there's no way that you can reliably get all that damage on your opponent's field, without knocking stuff out. Like, what are you going to be playing to get... Like, okay, in order for this to be doing even 100 damage, you need 9 damage counters already on your opponent's field. Like, where is that going to come from? It's not.
Yeah, so there's no reliable spreader in the format, and of course you've got things like Rough Seas to ruin your day if your opponent ever Rough Seas their Pokemon. So Honchkrow, cool card, not that relevant right now. Maybe in the future, who knows. So Sableye is getting some hype. People wanting to play this with Decidueye. I highly doubt this is going to be played with Decidueye.
Yeah, I don't know. I think... the only thing is, I think if you can Lysander something up and just use limitation, like if you can Lysander up, say, a Hooper, and just use limitation over and over again, that could be, I think that's the best application of it. I think as a, like, quote-unquote, like, disruption card in terms of making your opponent dead draw, it's not very good, because you can't use it going first. Like, your opponent's always going to get access to a supporter beforehand, and it's so weak that your opponent only has to do 60 damage to knock it out. I think the only way it's going to be used is, like, it's not just enough to use it with the Decidueye Barbloom. You have to actually Lysander up a target and use limitation to stall with. But you'd probably rather just use Mouth to snipe stuff on the bench in the meantime instead. Like, there's probably better ways of abusing that advantage than this.
Absolutely. So I think that's the key, isn't it? Most decks can do 60 damage fairly easily without even having any supporters or item cards. If you're locked out, you just
exactly. It's so weak.
Yeah. So it's just,
and you need Dark Energy as well. That's the other thing about it. So it means, okay, if you're playing Decidueye, you have to play the Rainbow build just to fit this in. And it's like, it's just not worth it. It's not good enough.
Absolutely. So Absol, people talking about Doom News. We've seen this effect before many times in the past.
This is not good. This is terrible. The fact people are talking about this is just think critically about the cards you look at, because I think this is not good.
Yeah, of course, for newer players, once you switch to the bench, there are no effects on the bench, so your opponent can simply...
Right, of course, yeah. If that wasn't the case, this would actually not be bad. Yeah. This would actually be a pretty good attack, yeah. So, but unfortunately, we've always had that clause, which makes these sort of attacks next to useless.
Yeah, so let's skip past Absol. The abs aren't looking too great. Metagross GX, you like this card, do you?
Yeah, well, look, I just think Solgaleo is so cool. Yeah, I think it's such a cool card. I've been, my guilty pleasure is playing Solgaleo Bronzong and Expanded. That is such a fun deck. It's a really, really cool combination. I suppose this can allow you to sort of recreate it in the standard format. The problem is, my issue with it isn't even the setup. I actually think that setting up multiple stage 2s, as weird as it might sound, I think when you have such big HP, I actually think that's not even the biggest problem. The biggest problem is everything's weak to fire. So automatically you just lose the Volcano because you're getting a 1 at every turn. And you're so reliant on abilities that Hex Manec's going to really do a number on you. So I think actually those are the bigger problem rather than... Because I actually think setting up a few stage 2s when they're so bulky and hard to knock out, and you can store with Max Potion, and you've got so much comeback ability, I think that's not actually the biggest problem. I think that the mono fire weakness of the Solgaleo Metagross deck is the bigger problem. Also, I think deck space is a bit difficult. Whereas in Expanded, Bronzong is a stage 1, whereas Metagross is a stage 2. Even if it's not a case of getting it out, it's just fitting everything into the deck, just from a 60 cards perspective, is too difficult. One thing that has to be noted is that GX attack, which is a very hard attack to value. On the one hand, if your opponent doesn't end you, that's like the best attack you can ever use in the game. Searching your deck for 5 cards is insane. That's like imagine, okay, so say you're playing Solgaleo Metagross, you get a bunch of basics down, on turn 2 you rare candy this, you algorithm, your opponent doesn't end you. You could just, you just rare candy this, rare candy that, rare candy this, rare candy... you could just get everything set up. It's just insane. The problem is also... Well, okay, one is that if your opponent just draws into N, well then you've wasted your attack. You've wasted your GX attack. You can't use Soul Burst anymore if you need that. The bigger problem also is that now with Tapu Lele, decks can search out N more easily. Yeah. So, because previously, honestly, a lot of decks were only playing like a few N. Some lists, even like Mega Ray decks, some even didn't play any N at all, or just 1 N. Volcanion decks maybe playing like 2 N. So there'd actually be a decent chance prior to Tapu Lele of your opponent not actually getting an N when they need it. But now, with Tapu Lele, it's too easy for opponent to end you. So algorithm is like tantalizingly it's tantalizing, but you're gonna get your heart broken like 75% of the time.
It's the ultimate risk reward, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's a massive gamble, and you could just end up failing completely. So
and then you would have rather used your attack, Solgaleo's GX attack, which just allows you to get a bunch of energy. So I think maybe if like Volcania drops off, or there's some way of preventing weakness that actually works. Look, honestly, I think because Solgaleo is just so strong, like it can't be stated how strong it is. Like the fact that Solgaleo Lurantis was even a deck, considering that you had to actually waste an attack just to power up Solgaleo with Lurantis, like once you burnt all your energy, shows you just how strong the deck is. And imagine not having to use an attack just to power it up again. Imagine being able to use Sunsteel Strike over and over again, and you can use Max Potion on a 250 HP Pokemon. Like, just think about how strong that is. But I think there's a few things stopping it from, being played.
Yeah. So Metagross GX, a hark back to the old Metagross in the Meta Knight decks, which lets you search out Psychic Energy and attach it to your active. I just think it's crazy that this card is considered not good in the current meta. It's just everything about this card is great.
Yeah.
Its HP, its ability, its GX attack is good, but not good in the format right now.
Yeah, I mean, if N were to disappear from the format, this card would be, just nuts. This card would be ridiculously good overnight. Yeah, so unless people start playing Judges.
I think Metagross GX, we'll have to wait and see what impact it can make in the future. But right now, probably relegated to Tier 3 and Binders. So that's unfortunate because I really like this effect. It's a great ability.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, born at the wrong time. So Solgaleo getting some, I wouldn't say hype, but recognition in that it's techable into the Solgaleo Lurantis deck, or just Solgaleo, because you're already running the Cosmog evolution line, and it's a non-EX which can hit 170 damage, which is never bad. So it's sort of like, if you think about to the old Blastoise deck, how people ran one copy of the non-EX Black Kyurem, but that's mostly for the mirror. But just to have a non-EX attacker that can hit big numbers, this is sort of similar. If Solgaleo ever becomes a deck, you can definitely see this being splashed in there, because it's just too easy to splash in. But when would you rather use this rather than just Sunsteel Strike? I'm not too sure.
Well, no, I think the card that's competing with this is Cobalion. I think as a non-EX attacker, Solgaleo would rather just attack with Cobalion.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that's just better than this, honestly. I think even if Solgaleo sees play, I don't think this will see play.
Yeah,
this card.
So,
I mean, I suppose... Look, I think... Because the thing is, right, like, okay, Cobalion's only good later on, but, I mean, you wouldn't want to use this early on either, so, yeah, I think...
I guess the thing about this is that it's sort of good with Ultra Road from Solgaleo. You can sort of switch it and then retreat back and hit another 170. So
yeah, but it's probably going to get one carried after you attack with it once. And you're losing 3 energy. So Cobalion's only a 2 energy commitment. I don't think this will see play.
Yeah. So I think probably not going to see play, but just noteworthy that it does exist, and
it does.
So yeah. Anything of note here that you want to talk about before we hit?
No. Other than with as many people have pointed out, with Whimsicott, it's technically possible to win a game in one turn if you then follow it with an Umbreon EX attack on a Mega Pokemon to knock it out. So that situation will never happen ever.
Yeah.
So, but just pointing it out.
Yeah. All right. So Sylveon GX, good card, great card. Better version of Lapras, or the old Quad Lapras deck that we're seeing.
Yeah.
Take some hype right now, I guess, is the only way I can put it. But Sylveon GX, possibly the salvation, the savior we need to break Decidueye's lock at the moment. It's just so disruptive. It's just can be the focus of a disrupted deck with Flare Grunts, Skull Grunts, things like that.
Yeah, hammers, and you can use Puzzle of Time so well.
Yeah,
I mean, just conceptually, if you're thinking, oh, maybe this card isn't that great, just think of Quad Lapras right now and the fact that it's even a playable deck, and then just make it way better. Yeah. And then just in your head, just go, okay, therefore this must be good.
Yeah.
It's like just that alone means that it has to be, at least good. And honestly, having access to the other type change evolutions means that it's actually a good attacker. You just once you've put a fairy energy onto it, and of course, all you need is a Fairy Energy onto an Eevee, and you automatically get Sylveon out, and you can even attack on the first turn. But then you can follow up, attach a DCE, and so against, say, a deck that's harder to energy denial against, so like Volcanion, for instance, you can just play the type change Vaporeon, and you can one-hit KO everything in the deck. That still might be a harder matchup because they can probably trade better than you can, but it just shows that this can win against things even that you can't energy denial and beat.
Actually, I'd counter that. I would say that Volcanion would be a great matchup for Sylveon, purely because of Prairie GX. How many times have we seen Volcanion just sitting on the bench waiting to come active? It's a large commitment. You play Elixirs, use Baby Volcanion's attacks to power up your Volcanions on the bench, and Prairie GX, just make your opponent pick it back up.
Yeah,
No, I think that's pretty massive for a Volcanion deck.
But the thing is, in the meantime, if they're powering them up, what are they attacking with? They're, of course, attacking you with Baby Volk, and Baby Volk actually can 2-hit KO Sylveon. So if you're not going to do anything, like if you're just saying, even forgetting, like even if Prairie GX, even if, best case scenario, right? You're sending like 2 Volcanions back with 3 energy each or something ridiculous like that. The problem is that, like, presumably you've been hit with a Baby Volk in the meantime, and if you're using Prairie GX, that means you're not attacking, you're not, putting on any pressure, and they're essentially going to be 2 KOing you. Particularly, you've put all the energy back into their hand. They're guaranteed to get all those steam ups then. So I think, well, unless you're Hex Maniac them, I suppose, but I think that actually Prairie GX like isn't that good an attack. I think that's an overrated attack personally. But I mean, I think it's a fantastic, just Magical Ribbon alone is amazing, right?
Yeah.
And Fairy Wind's actually like not bad, but
yeah.
Sorry,
well,
to be outspoken, I think Prairie GX is like overrated. But I think you're right. It still has like utility, but just you're using an attack like that has to be good. I think it's like one of the weakest GX attacks in the format, honestly.
Yeah. Okay, I'll disagree with you there. We'll wait and see how that turns out.
Yeah.
But
the time will tell. Yeah.
Sylveon GX, as you said, a better version of Lapras. Lapras collect. You get to draw 3 cards. Sylveon, you get to search 3 cards, whatever you want. So Fairy Wind, as we said, 110, and you can play it with a type change Eevee. So if you are really worried about the Volcanion matchup, you can play Vaporeon, and that will substantially improve your Volcanion matchup. And so, I think this is a pretty solid card, great card, and we'll definitely see play.
Yeah, great weakness as well. Weak to metal, resistant to dark.
Exactly.
Great stats there.
You might as well just have no weakness if you're weak to metal at the moment.
Yeah, exactly,
So, okay, we'll skip past the Badra. Drampa, ability bulletproof, 10 less damage from attacks. Wow, that's great on a 60 HP Pokemon.
It's effectively got 70 HP. I mean, that's what a tank.
I know. Como GX.
This is a bit disappointing. Yeah. If that last attack wasn't a GX attack and you could use it every single turn, this card would be amazing.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you can only use it once. And then you're back to using an attack which just does 130 damage, which just isn't good enough.
It's
of course, you can power it up with Double Dragon for 2 energy, but 130 just isn't enough.
Yeah, it sort of does 10 more damage than Sunsteel Strike, but it's a GX attack. So, not much to say about this. It's
poor card.
Yeah, bad card. Blissey, another interesting Blissey, another healing Blissey. So once during your turn, before you attack, when you play this card to evolve on Pokemon, you may heal 80 damage from your active. 80 damage is a huge heal. Where it will see play right now, I don't know, but it would have to be the focus of a tank deck.
Possibly.
But,
I just think 80's good, but it's like, in a weird way, it's like almost not good enough. Like, I think things could still 2-hit KO things, like even with the 80. Like, say for instance, you've got a 180 HP Pokemon, and your opponents, they've hit you for 150 damage, right? Well, even if you heal 80, you're still back at 70, and then you're still going to get knocked out. Like, I think if you're going to heal, you should be playing cards like Max Potion, all these sort of things. And if your deck can't do that, you're not going to waste time playing stage 1s, which can't even work under Hex Maniac. I think, like, not only is this card not good right now, I think it will never be good, honestly, unfortunately. If it healed all damage, then I think that could be great. But I think 80 damage, like, it's a lot, but
it's pretty mediocre.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be good.
But it's an interesting ability nonetheless. And
it is, it is. It's also got a lot of HP, so it's like it's a sort of a tanky Pokemon, so it's like not an easy target. So
anyway, moving on. Swallow has the classic flying type attacks: agility, shadow dive, or swallow dive. Sorry. not good. Cast form, search your deck for 2 stadiums, not good. Rayquaza, cool
Interesting
card.
attack. Yeah, I don't think it'll be. Well, it's sort of like the Baby Volk, but you have to have a DCE on it. So maybe you can see playing something. I'm not seeing it at the moment, but
I think I'm not seeing it at the moment. It's hard to find a partner for it. It's definitely inherently a good card. It's always been good to be able to power up your bench with an attack from your active, and especially 2 basic energy cards is massive. So, but right now, Baby Volk just seems superior, and I can't think of any sort of non-fire type decks that could really abuse this at the moment. So, put this in the futures basket. Okay, did we skip anything there? I don't think so. Beware.
No. Beware. I just went Kamala. I'm so glad we have a koala Pokemon in the format.
Straight.
Just gonna put that out there.
So Comatose, the classic binge drinking culture of Australia has come to the fore with
it's the eucalyptus culture. Koalas they OD on eucalyptus, and sometimes it doesn't turn out good. But in this case, it wants to be asleep, so it can hit for 100 for 3. If it was just 2 colors energy, this could actually be good. But you have to power it up with Max Elixir, and there's better things to power with Max Elixir in the DCE, such as the next Pokemon we have. That's a better Pokemon to power with Max Elixir in the DCE.
Yep, Drampa GX. So 3 pretty decent attacks. That's all I can say about this.
The only thing about it, it's very splashable, and I think that's one of the things people talk about. Like, it attacks for colorless energy. You can put it in anything. I think that's nice to have, but I think it's actually the awkward thing is having to have a bench Pokemon with damage on it to hit for 150 with Berserk is actually really awkward, because that's not something that happens organically, in matches. Because if you're going to rely on your opponent hitting you and then retreating that to the bench, I think that's not something you can rely on. So you need to play Team Magma Secret Base, or if only we had a Pokemon that could damage itself on the bench. I think, or you play a Rainbow Energy and you have to waste attachment on something on the bench. It just doesn't seem. So I think that's awkward. But I think hitting 150 now is a lot better than it used to be, because we have Choice Band and we have Field Blower. So things even 180 HP GXs and EXs can't use Fury Belt, so they can, but you can discard it. And then with a Choice Band, you can get one-hit KOs and things you otherwise wouldn't be able to. Still not going to be able to carry those big GXs with 200 plus HP, the natural HP. Righteous Edge is a good attack, but it's actually it'd be good against Decidueye. Being able to discard double colors against that deck is actually really good. And it's got a good GX attack, but again, N being so prevalent, it's not. Not something you can rely on. But if you've got a bad hand, even forcing your opponent to N you would be a good result for you. So Ultra Ball can turn into, but if you've got Ultra Ball, you could search for Tapu Lele or Shaman anyway. So it's not great. One thing we didn't talk about with Tapu Lele is you can use it under Wobbuffet. Just as an addendum to what we were talking about 45 minutes ago. That's an advantage of Tapu Lele over Shaman. You can use it under Wobbuffet. Anyway, as for this card, I think it's pretty good. I've heard it with Eviltile, box type decks, those sort of things. But I think those decks are falling out of popularity. It's decent.
Yeah. All right. Aether Paradise Conservation Area. So your Grass and Lightning take 30 less damage. In Stadium form, not that good. I don't think the opponent has total control.
Yeah, really. Absolutely. It's a passive thing where your opponent needs to not counter it. Intrinsically, it's such a good effect. If this were to stick in play, and you were playing the Tabu Koko deck we were talking about earlier, that's huge. But your opponent, now we have Field Blower, which discards stadiums as well. In addition to counter stadiums, you can't rely on this staying in play. It's just not something that you can rely on.
Yeah. So, not that great with Field Blower, especially. Definitely going to be played in most decks, 1 or 2 of. Not that good. Altar of the Moon, retreat costs. Each of your Psychic Dark have is 2 colorless less. Yeah.
Oh, it's not a Pokemon. It's actually the energy you have attached, which actually makes it a bit worse. I think if it was just Psychic and Dark Pokemon, that just means Wobbuffet would have free retreat. Hooper would. Having to attach an energy to it does make it a little worse. It's good in Turbo Dark decks. Yeah. But I don't think it's not spectacular, but. Stadiums generally aren't quote unquote spectacular. They're just there for utility, so it's not bad.
So what we were talking about earlier, if only Metagross wasn't weak to
fire.
I
know. And here's the problem.
Altar of the Sun.
If you can just hope that Volcanion doesn't play one of their many counter stadiums or field blowers, which they'll both inevitably play, then maybe your Solgaleo can survive a turn. But passive stadiums, just in this format, they're not good.
No.
If field blower didn't discard stadiums, and we didn't have such a format where stadiums are such a big deal, because traditionally they haven't necessarily always been played in all decks, but nowadays they are.
Yeah, I think just because stadiums are much more powerful now than they ever used to be. So Aqua Patch, hype. Big card, absolutely.
Yeah. So water box decks are going to love this. So decks that play Lapras and other sort of water Pokemon, it's fantastic. In addition to Max Elixir, you can power up Lapras probably pretty reliably, even on like turn 1 going second, especially turn 2 going first. Put on a lot of pressure. And just with a basic Pokemon, that's amazing. And with Lapras, you can just switch between them because, of course, once you use Blizzard Burn, you can't attack the following turn. But it's a lot easier to cycle between Laprases. Whereas before, you kind of had to awkwardly use Energy Switch and those sort of things. So, fantastic card in that, I think. The problem with Lapras decks is the weakness of Grass, but it's a good card.
It's going to be interesting to see how this card shakes up the format a bit. Volcanion is a powerful deck, and it's certainly a tier 1 deck at the moment. And whether or not that will fall out just because of Aqua Patch, you can find sort of quote-unquote bad water decks beating Volcanion purely because Aqua Patch is so good. Allows you to reliably power up your water Pokemon and hit Volcanion for weakness. Things like Ninetales, GX, etc. So, and as you said, Lapras. It'll be interesting to see just, not necessarily, like obviously this is a good card, but just whether people shy away from Volcanion fearing that Water Box will become massive just because Aqua Patch has been printed. So that, I think, from my point of view, that's the most interesting thing about this card. Everybody knows it's good. Dark Patch had such a hold on the format for such a long time, pretty much until it rotated. So Aqua Patch, will it have that kind of hold on the format? We'll just have to wait and see. I don't think
probably not. The thing with Aqua Patch was that Eviltal and Darkrai was so good. I mean, Lapras is a good attacker. Like, it is a good attacker. Blizzard Bird's good and Ice Beam's really good. But relative to the format, it's not what Eviltal was back in its day. It's not what Darkrai was when it was first released. So this isn't going to be as dominating. And the problem also is, as we're talking about Garbodor, this is a classic item card that will just clog up your discard pile and make Trashalanche do massive amounts of damage. That's seriously something that these decks would have to be concerned about. If you're playing 4 Aqua Patch, 4 Elixir, on top of all the other item cards you're playing, you're naturally going to have a bad matchup against these Garbodor decks. So that's something that's going to hinder these sort of decks.
Yeah, okay. Brooklet Hill, once you're in your turn, you may search your deck for a basic water or basic fighting Pokemon, put it onto your bench. Pretty cool card, I think. How playable it is, not too sure. I think there are much more powerful stadiums out there at the moment
just relatively,
that you'd rather play. If you were playing a water deck or a fighting deck, you'd rather play things like Rough Seas or Scorched Earth or things like that. So, I don't think it's the most powerful stadium, but it's a cool effect.
Yep.
Choice Band. Now, this is format breaking, some would say. And it's 30 extra damage if you're hitting a GX or EX Pokemon. And given the how powerful EX cards and now GX cards are becoming, this is definitely going to be relevant. Just going to shake things up a bit. What do you think, Roland? What's your immediate assessment of this?
Yeah, I think it's really good. Uncontroversial opinion there. But no, I think it's clearly a good card. And what it means is that, like, say, as I mentioned before, as an example, like things like Drampa, things that do like 150 base damage, the crucial numbers to hit become different, particularly when you combine it with Field Blower. Because say like a Darkrai EX with a Fighting Fury Belt, that is 220 HP. But now something with a base damage of 150 HP can knock out a Darkrai because you can Field Blow the Fury Belt and you can play a Choice Band. So I think, and also, and being able to, just being able to 1-hit KO this Pokemon is so important. So it just makes all the numbers in the format become different, and cards that might have been played less can really sort of shine because they can get 1-hit knockouts where the others wouldn't be able to. And decks like Darkrai can't just sort of sit back and be like, oh, well, if you can't do 220 damage, you can't knock me out. It's not like that anymore. So, I think it is going to shake up the format.
Yeah, for sure.
But obviously, it's not going to like benefit one deck massively and not benefit other decks. It's going to be a pretty even spread. Some decks are going to benefit more than others, but definitely going to change things.
It's sort of one of those cards where when you're assessing Pokemon, you always got to keep it in mind. What does Choice Band do?
Yeah, exactly.
What these non-EX Pokemon that seem bad, they could actually be really good with a Choice Band.
Or even GX Pokemon. Like, because of course, unlike Silver Bangle Evolved, which is like what this is, you can attach it, you can use it on EX and GX. The other thing is also, like, the fact that Field Blower exists makes this card better relative to Fighting Fury Belt. So
absolutely, I agree with that.
Because, of course, Fighting Fury Belt, a lot of the appeal of it is a passive effect. It relies on your opponent not Field Blowing you. So if Field Blower didn't exist, I think a lot of basic decks would actually just stick with Fighting Fury Belt. Because they're getting like a 50 damage benefit. They're getting 10 extra damage and 40 extra HP.
Yeah.
So in a lot of cases, they would probably prefer that to doing 30 more. And the 30 more is only to EX and GX. But with Field Blower, decks like Volcanion, Turbo Dark, etc., Waterbox, they can't rely on their Fighting Fury Belt always providing them with 40 extra HP. So they're going to have to rethink, is Choice Band a better option, for my deck? It's going to be interesting to see how we play our decks, pick between those counts, particularly the basic decks, which could be playing Fighting Fury Belt. That's going to be interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. So Choice Band, definitely a great card. And unlike Energy Lotto, which is not a good card.
Yeah, you can get double Colors, double Dragon. I don't think it's the worst card ever, to be honest. I think people are getting their boots stuck into it. I actually think it's like not that bad. If you had a deck that was like really needed to get double Colors, I mean, you could even see it played in like, it's probably not worth playing in things like Gyarados and Vespiquen.
The only utility I can see from this card is in something like a Clawitzer deck where you're wanting to Mega Boost or something like that. That's the only thing I can see.
So
like, why wouldn't you
just say it's terrible? Don't even add the claw to it. Just say it's terrible.
Why don't you just like
put us out of our
draw
misery?
into it, or Shaman draw into your energy? Like, getting a card to hand is not that good at the moment.
Yeah, but it's an item. So
power.
but it's an item. So I think.
Yeah,
I don't think it's particularly good, but I mean, the fact you can get it with Trainer's Mail, like, for certain decks, it could be. I think with Garbodor, we'll see decks play less items, so I don't think this will see much play, but I think theoretically, I could see a world where this card is possibly played, if that makes sense. Like, but I don't think it's great.
That is not a world I want to be a part of.
Also, is it meant to say Lotto? Because it Lotto's with one T. That's the worst part of the card by far. Lotto. Isn't it a lotto? Because it's like you're not sure whether you're going to get the energy. It's like playing a lotto.
Yeah, I think it's a
the
lotto.
prize probably isn't as good as a regular lotto.
Yeah, this is
because you're just getting an energy
chance,
as opposed to like $20 million. But
yeah,
that's probably all we have to say about that. Energy Recycle got a reprint. So
yeah, reprint, Enhanced Hammer reprint means it's just going to stay in format for a couple more years.
Yep.
So yeah, not much to say about that. Everybody knows Enhanced Hammer is either really good or a really bad card, depending on which matchups you're playing against and.
Very format dependent. At the moment, we have a lot of item lock and basic energy decks. So yeah.
Yeah. So Field Blower. This is a format changing card.
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah, this really sort of reduces the old Garbotoxin sort of stranglehold in the format, which sort of weirdly enough kind of dissipated anyway with Decidueye coming into play, because that combined with Beedrill and Vileplume actually could really abuse opponents' Garbodors.
Yeah.
Even though you might think Garbodor should counter that, but that's sort of not how it worked out. So weirdly enough, the format was kind of changing anyway, so that the Garbotoxin Garbodor wasn't actually that sort of game breaking. But even just being able to discard Fighting Fury Belts and EXP shares, that on its own is just incredible. That's amazing, and that changes. Yeah, again, as I said, talk about like things like Turbo Darkrai. They can't just I can't just put a bunch of EXP shares on my bench. Put Fighting Fury Belts and just know that my opponent can't do 220 damage and not knocking me out.
Yeah.
Now with Field Blower, decks can hit numbers that decks can knock things out they wouldn't otherwise be able to. So
absolutely.
Yeah, even without the Garbodor thing, and obviously it is big against Garbodor, the Garbotoxin Garbodor. Even it's just a great card.
Yeah, and being able to discard stadium cards as well is so versatile.
Yeah, and stadiums.
It means you can
it is good.
Essentially, well, not cut stadiums from your deck, but you can possibly reduce your stadium count.
You absolutely can.
For not
you
winning
can. Definitely. And also it means that, like, say your opponent's got Parallel City in a way that you don't want, and you're playing Parallel City where you can Field Blower and then play your own.
That's right.
Which is something that, sort of others aren't able to do.
Yeah, and I think, the major point is this absolutely ruins EXP share, because EXP share you need to stay in play. It's not like you can, as in you need it to be in play on your opponent's turn when your opponent knocks out one of your Pokemon. So you're never guaranteed to get an energy from EXP share, because your opponent can just Field Blower it away. Other cards like Choice Band, you can put it down the turn that you need it to use its effect. EXP share just gets absolutely ruined by Field Blower.
Absolutely. The only sort of counter to that is, as I sort of mentioned earlier with, I think, Tapu Koko, is actually we might see the promo Regirock, which can't you can't field blow that card
Yeah.
because it's got that Delta trait, I think. So it means that we actually seriously might see that card played in Turbo Dark decks.
Yeah.
I actually think that we will, because if you don't play that, well, then you can't use the XP share and field blow.
Yeah.
Almost this card would otherwise have went for promo Regirock. I think would actually destroy an archetype.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my prediction is that Turbo Dark decks will actually play promo Regirock, so they're gonna have something to stick an XP share onto. But yeah, this card definitely changes things for sure.
Yeah, I think you're right. But even then, having one Regirock, you're only conserving one energy, so...
That's true, yeah. You can't really... Yeah, obviously those decks would like to have 2 XP shares on the field, but they're probably going to have to make do with one.
Yeah, so, okay. Hala, less said about this, the better.
Not great. For decks that use GX attacks on the first or second turn, could be a one-off. Particularly with Tapu Lele, you can search out supporters as you want, but most decks don't want to use their GX attacks like on the first or second turn, so this is going to be a really subpar draw card.
Yeah, Soul Burst is really the only one you can think of.
Yeah, although the funny thing is you actually need setup to get the Soul Girl out in the first place, so playing this is really risky because it's like, well, drawing 4 cards is going to make it hard for you to get your Soul Girl out in the first place. You'd rather play stuff like Skylar probably, or even Teammates.
And drawing 7 cards is pretty powerful.
It's good, but it's not powerful enough to, it's not like Chorus used to be. I mean, obviously the comparison with this is with Chorus, like, bad early on, but good later on. But this isn't, like, fantastic later on like Chorus was, so, I don't think it's going to be good.
Yep. Mallow, 2 cards, search the deck, put them on top of your deck in any order. Nope.
It's not terrible. Like, if you Mallow and then you can Mallow, you can Ultra Ball for Shaman, then Mallow, and then you've, like, got yourself 2 cards that you want, any cards. It's actually not terrible. If you're playing a deck with Octillery, maybe. I
guess it's got synergy with Octillery.
I think it's actually not bad, but I think the decks that play Octillery are the ones that get benefit out of Teammates anyway.
Yeah.
So the things like Gyarados. So I mean, in those decks it's not going to be better than Teammates. You could play it again in other decks. So what I said about you have to Ultra Ball for Shaman first, play this, and then you can get 2 of any cards.
I think it's such a complex combination of cards, it just doesn't...
it's not great.
Consistent. So,
because without the combo, it's not good. Like, you have to have it with the combo, and having a supporter card that needs to be used with a combo is not good, because supporter cards are what you should be using to set up in the first place. So,
Max Potion Reprint, again, stay in format for a bit longer. Always been a powerful card, always finds some way to...
healing all damage is good, apparently.
Oh, who would have thought? Multi-switch, interesting card. Allows you, it's essentially an energy switch, but it can be any energy, so it can even be a special energy. But it has to be from your bench to your active, so that's the trade-off. Possibly could see some play, depending on... as in, not right now, I don't think it will see any play right now, but in the future, depending on what cards get printed, etc. What do you think, Roland?
I don't think this card's good. No,
this card's not good right now, but Futures Basket, maybe. It's sort of one of those cards you just want to keep in mind for the future, but probably not going to be too great. Rescue Stretcher, another one of these choose effects, similar to Giovanni's scheme. So you can either put a Pokemon from your discard into your hand, pretty strong, or shuffle 3 Pokemon cards from your discard pile into your deck, also pretty strong. So are you going to want to play this or Super Rod is the question.
Well, definitely. So if you're a deck that needs to get basic energy back, you might still just play Super Rod. But for decks like this is fantastic in Gyarados decks. This is amazing.
Roland, stop talking about Gyarados.
I can't stop. It's just a compulsion I have. But because this is both a buddy rescue and a Super Rod, because you're not playing basic energy. Obviously, you're only playing 4 DCE. So I mean, the problem is Decidueye. So it makes Gyarados like intrinsically better. So as soon as you think that Decidueye isn't going to be a big thing, you can just clean up Gyarados because your deck's even better than it was before. It also benefits from Choice Band. Since I'm already on talking about Gyarados, but Rescue Stretcher is a really good card. But and being able to just get one Pokemon back from your discard pile, that can be good. Like just a clutch, I discarded a Shaman or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Just get it back. Whereas like Super Odd, is it always going to be good to have my deck? Sometimes I just want it right now. Maybe my Sudowoodo got knocked out by Mega Rayquaza, and I just want it back. I don't know. I think it's a really good card, but some decks will still play Super Odd, but it's good.
Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure how consistent it will be, but it's definitely a good card. You definitely play this as a one-off, similar to Super Odd, or maybe more if you're playing Gyarados, then you play multiple, obviously, but generally speaking, as a one-off. But it'll find its way into some decks. I personally think Super Rod's still better at the moment, just because of the utility you can get out of it. A combination of Pokemon and basic energy is always good. This is sort of situational, but can be good depending on the deck.
I mean, it is a bit more diverse in some senses.
Yeah. All right, so
is that it? Have we got to the end?
I think we've covered it, except for
we have to review the full arts though individually.
The full arts individually. I think
Little
Ninetales looks pretty good.
Sylveon
looks pretty sweet.
Yeah.
If you're into pink.
I still don't know what I'm even looking. What is Toxapex?
Huh?
Toxapex is a weird looking dude.
Where's Toxapex?
It's right at the left, in the middle.
I'm missing it.
What? In the middle.
Oh, there. Yeah. Sorry. Looks like it's a little gremlin in some kind of a case.
Yeah, I'm showing my ignorance
of
Gen 8 Pokemon.
Yeah.
Or Gen 7. I'm showing my ignorance even with that,
Yeah. So,
Black and Rock looks good. What's good looking cards here for sure.
Good looking cards. And the hyper rares, so we get Incineroar, Decidueye.
Oh, gold double colors. How much is that going to be paying in a year?
I believe that's 100 pre-order on Troll and Toad.
Oh, man. 100 US?
Yeah, 100 US.
Yeah, that's ouch.
So I don't know if it is possible to fully bling your deck at the moment. It might be actually.
Oh, it's like every single card.
Every single card.
You've got
energy as well.
Yeah, because here we've got there's only grass, lightning, and fighting. Is that correct?
And psychic and metal from Sun and Moon.
Oh right, yep.
So it is possible. I don't know what deck can you fully bling Decidueye?
Yeah.
But Decidueye runs Dartrix and Rowlet and Vileplume. Disappointing.
Darn. Just play a straight Decidueye deck with only Decidueye.
Yeah.
And no Dartrix.
So gold rare candy.
Yeah. Oh, Aqua Patch. Aqua Patch is gold. Field Blower is the gold. Max Potion.
Yeah,
rare candy. Yeah.
It's possible. It's probably.
I think people are going to be spending a lot more money. I think Pokemon have figured out a way of getting people to do that.
Oh, definitely.
Print cards that people love in these sort of.
All right. So.
So that's.
Any closing thoughts, Roland? What decks are gonna?
Yeah, so I think just everything that we said, I suppose. Well, I can disappear, right? So we'll get in the put down the hammer. Which decks are going to disappear? As I said, I think Mega Ray is going to get hurt. Yeah. Turbo Darks, I think, are going to need to change a bit. I do think they will start playing a promo Regirock because if you don't do that, then I mean you can't get a mileage out of XP share, and then the deck just becomes mediocre. So that's going to have to change. I think Mega Mewtwo with Garbodor being a thing, I think is going to drop off. Yeah. So I mean, those are three decks that are going to have to. Well, less so Turbo Dark because I think that just sort of more changes. But even just Mega Ray and Mega Mewtwo kind of being pushed to the fringes, that alone is a big effect on the format.
Yeah.
Even if you're skeptical about everything else we've said, just the fact those two things, I think is big, and that's why this set's so big. Garbodor is really good. Sylveon's going to be a good deck. Tapu Lele is splashable and good.
Yeah.
So I think it's just going to be a really interesting set. See how it plays out. Going to be very impactful, and obviously the trainer cards are going to be big in how they make interactions. But the question is, do we still see Decidueye and Volcanion still kind of being at the top?
Yeah.
Or do we see things sort of displace and move things around? But it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, I personally think that Decidueye will still keep its sort of hold on the format. I can't see any hard counters to that deck at the moment that don't already exist, and I don't think any existing decks really get any stronger from this set. I think some new archetypes come along. I guess Tapu Lele means you can search out Hex, but apart from that, I think Decidueye is still going to be the number one deck to beat. So, yeah. All right. So, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed our set review.
Yeah, cheers, guys.
And we will see you soon. We got plenty more games to commentate and put up on YouTube, so definitely stay tuned, subscribe, like, comment, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.